Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Catalina Gillies. 4 employees at the Thunderbase Regional Health Sciences Center have been suspended without pay for failing to comply with the hospital's COVID-19 vaccination declaration requirements. The new rules are part of the Ministries of Health Directive 6, which took effect on September 7th. Hospital staff, contractors, and volunteers who do not provide proof of both doses or supply proof of a medical exemption must fulfill several other requirements to continue being at the hospital. Those who are not vaccinated or who choose not to share their vaccination status must complete an education program. And everyone not fully vaccinated or refusing to declare their status must comply with antigen testing requirements. Hospital officials say the 4 suspensions have not impacted their ability to provide patient care, as they represent only around 0.1% of their total staff of close to 4,000 people. The Trans-Canada Highway east of Dryden will remain closed until midnight tonight following a fatal collision near Denorwick this afternoon. A spokesperson with the OPP says the pickup truck collided with a tractor trailer hauling cattle. The driver of the pickup died at the scene and the passengers suffered life-threatening injuries. Several school bus routes were canceled as a result of the closure of Highway 17, and students are being supervised at schools until alternate arrangements can be made. Vaccine certificates have now been mandatory in the province for 2 days, and the Thunderbase District's Medical Officer of Health says it's going to be a learning process. Dr. Janet DeMille is preaching patience at this point, saying her staff will stress education over enforcement for the time being. And the health unit is following up on reports that many were going maskless at a pair of large-scale events this past weekend. Corey Nordstrom has more.
Showing proof of vaccination before entering non-essential businesses is still very new, and the district's medical officer of health says they are taking a progressive approach to enforcement.
We continue to work with people and educate and support them in applying it to their particular workplace. And, as we move forward, if we start, hearing about places that may not be doing it or may not be doing it properly, we'll be in touch with them.
DeMille says many locals are having issues receiving their proof of vaccination. The health unit is getting more calls than they can handle on the matter, and she advises residents to check out the provincial phone line. She adds that Ontario's website has been down due to high traffic volumes, but she urges residents to keep trying.
Sometimes it's a data entry issue where the first and second doses are not clearly linked in there, so you can't show a receipt that shows the second dose. But that's not, most people though should be able to get their receipt just through the website, and we would encourage people to do that.
Meanwhile, the health unit is investigating after reports that this past weekend's dirt track races in Oliver Papoonge and the Wake the Giant concert at Marina Park, which both drew thousands of attendees, had very few patrons wearing masks in close quarters.
I've heard and seen a couple of the pictures from those events, and I think what we do is the same as our response to any other situation where, there seems to be perhaps non-compliance with something that's in the law, like that's in the regulation. We do follow up and we have a bit of an approach for that.
DeMille does say she's pleased with Wake the Giant organizers for their efforts in setting up an event that attempted to follow all public health guidelines, including proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
For the 3rd straight day, the Thunderbase District Health Unit is reporting no new cases of COVID-19, and the active case count remains at just 2. But it's a different story in the western part of the region. Today, the Northwestern Health Unit announced a total of 4 new cases split between 3 regions, bringing the active case count to 8. Dr. Kit Young-hoon says it's not surprising that some of those infected over the last 7 weeks are from members of the population who have not been vaccinated.
Of all our cases in the region since August 1st, the unvaccinated were infected 6 times more often than fully vaccinated. This rate is very similar to the provincial rate. In addition, provincially, unvaccinated people are 24 times more likely to be hospitalized and 43 times more likely to be in the ICU.
On a positive note, Young Hoon says that region is now on par with provincial first dose rates at 85.4%. We're now getting a look at the next steps regarding Ontario's proof of vaccination program. For now, you'll need a vaccine certificate to enter some non-essential businesses, but the government says progress is being made on its digital passports. Colin DeMello has more.
When Ontario's proof of vaccine system went into effect yesterday, the requirement ruffled some feathers. Police in Toronto say they received several calls about the system yesterday, which had to be redirected to 311, a line to access city services, leading to pleas for patience from mayors.
This program is meant to help avoid the type of lockdowns that devastated businesses and residents over the past year and a half. So please, do not take your frustrations out on those asking you for your proof of vaccination. They're simply following the rules.
The paper copies, however, are just a temporary measure. The Ford government is working on a QR code that is set to be launched on October 22nd. CTV News has learned that the province already has a prototype of the new app that will verify the QR code originating from the Ministry of Health.
Just takes seconds, and the way the app is developed for businesses is that once they scan a QR code, it displays a check mark or an X, and then right away there is an option that says scan the second QR code. So this way, the whole idea is to make life easy.
But the government has been criticized for taking too long to develop the digital passport. To fill the void, developers in Ontario created their own system that allows you to keep a QR code on your phone, which can be easily read by a business. We showed that system to the minister responsible for digital government. How is it that some software developers were able to create this system so quickly, but the Ministry of Health and the Government of Ontario wasn't able to come up with your own system in time for September 22nd?
Look, coming from a technology background, technology, everybody has, ways to do codings. But my responsibility here at the government is to make sure that the product that we are releasing is secured and privacy protected.
The government says it'll demonstrate the app in the weeks to come and is promising it will be ready on October 22nd.
Here locally, there's mixed reaction to the vaccine certificate program. And today, the head of the Thunderbase Chamber of Commerce discussed the big change with Ford government officials. The program requires government-issued ID along with digital or paper vaccine receipts for both doses in order to gain entry to non-essential businesses and events. The proof of vaccination is required for restaurants and bars, concerts and sporting events, movie theaters, casinos, and gyms. Chamber President Charla Robinson says the passport system is far from perfect, and she brought up the concern she's been hearing from local business owners with the government officials at the meeting. Robinson says they told her that for now, this is the best option for Ontario.
That this is not meant to be a forever situation. However, we do need to get folks vaccinated so that we can have a little bit more opportunities to be able to continue to do these things. And this is one way that businesses can remain open that otherwise may be required to close.
Robinson says there is a possibility of different types of businesses being added to the program, but that decision would be up to the Chief Medical Officer of Health and the Ford government. With more companies and organizations enforcing vaccine mandates in the workplace, Lakehead University hosted a panel discussion today to talk about vaccine mandates and their legalities under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. For Alaskan Law School Dean Eula Hughes moderated a panel with Professor Mariette Brennan from LU and Professor Vanessa Grubin from the University of Ottawa. Brennan discussed how these vaccine policies could be challenged under the Charter, while Grubin touched on different types of labor laws.
You don't in fact have an individual charter right to make a living at this stage. There may be issues that come up when it comes to the balancing and the proportionality analysis. So the impact on the individual's rights under Section 1 and the impact on the individual, it could come up in an analysis, but it's not its own separate charter right. So you don't have an economic right to an income.
The question about can employers unilaterally introduce these policies, yes, yes, they can. And depending on whether the employee is unionized or non-unionized, it depends where you can bring a legal challenge to that policy.
Both Brennan and Grubin wanted attendees to know that science proves how vaccinations really are the best way to reduce transmission of COVID-19, and courts and arbitrators will weigh that evidence in all cases surrounding vaccination policies. Thunder Bay police have charged 4 people with drug trafficking offenses following a raid at an Ambrose Street home late yesterday afternoon. Officers found suspected fentanyl and crack cocaine, as well as drug and cash and drug paraphernalia. A Toronto man and 3 Thunder Bay residents are now in custody. Residents will notice a change in the Thunder Bay soar starting this week, both in how it looks and how it's delivered to the door. The weekly newspaper published by us here at Dougal Media has been given a facelift. It's been redesigned to feature a brand new community events calendar, and some new columnists are coming soon as well. Publisher Leith Dunick says the popular news section will remain in place, but there's going to be more of an emphasis on providing readers a look forward at what's to come, as opposed to looking back over the week that was. The biggest difference, though, will be how and when the paper arrives.
We've switched our delivery service, and we've actually brought our printing back to Thunder Bay, and we've partnered in that sense with the Chronicle Journal, and they're going to print our paper each week, and they're also going to deliver it. So you'll be able to get the paper if you're a home subscriber to the Chronicle Journal on Fridays, and if not, you'll be able to get it into a flyer package, also known as the Lakehead, on Thursdays.
Dunick calls the partnership with the Chronicle Journal a win-win, strengthening 2 local media brands. The source was previously printed in Winnipeg, leaving its delivery schedule vulnerable to disruption, especially during winter months whenever the highway was forced to close. McHappy Day has come and gone, but the impact yesterday's fundraiser has on local families continues to be seen. 40% of the people who stay at the Ronald McDonald House in London, Ontario are from the Thunder Bay area, including the Fitzgerald family. And this year they wanted to thank local McDonald's employees for their contributions to the cause. Daniel Bain has the story.
Darius Fitzgerald is the only known child with both Down syndrome and a rare condition called NF2, where his body lacks the proteins needed to keep tumors from growing. The numerous surgeries and appointments needed over the years has brought his family to London, Ontario on many occasions, where they've stayed at the Ronald McDonald House. This charity provides families of sick children a place to stay together, meals, laundry, and other services all close to their child's hospital. Darius's mom, Danielle Fitzgerald, highlighted the impact it's had on her family specifically.
To be able to stay at Ronald McDonald House and only pay $12 a night for the whole family to stay it takes so much stress off of it, and you can focus in what's really important, and that's his healing.
Darius's dad, Andre Fitzgerald, feels a huge amount of gratitude for the 91 nights they've spent at the Ronald McDonald House in London.
They do so much, and it's just heartwarming, and just to know that there's a charity out there that is willing to help, when you've got a child that is so sick and in need of that assistance and support.
The Fitzgerald family delivered 5 gift baskets to the McDonald's Senior Area Supervisor, Enzo Cocciamilio, to thank the many employees who helped support the Ronald McDonald House. Cocciamilio was overjoyed to see the Fitzgerald family again, noting how great it is to see their work in action.
Seeing Darius and his family at the Ronald McDonald House is very heartwarming for all of us. The Ronald McDonald House does service, especially the one in London, a great number of families here in Thunder Bay.
For now, Darius is back in Thunder Bay with his friends and family, but as his condition evolves, the Fitzgerald family will lean on the Ronald McDonald House for any surgeries or treatments coming up in the future. Danielle Bain, TBT News.
Well, Mitchell, it got rather nice out today, nice sunny